I was asked to make a video about the scoring engine behind the Lynx Virtual Tour, like secret sauce would say. And that's what this video is about. First, a disclaimer, I did not write the engine. The engine was written by a person named Graybeard many, many years ago when he created the original GBVT, Graybeard's Virtual Tournament. I took that and created GBVC, Graybeard's Virtual Career, where his was just over a single tournament. I took it and stretched it out over a season and then season over season. And then from that, we now have Lynx Virtual Tour, which I took from that. But in all of those, the same scoring engine was used. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. And that scoring engine is made up of player data. That data comes from the PGA Tour website. So you have to enter in the player statistics for that previous season of your choice so that you have your roster full of data. In this case, this was 2019 data, I believe, when I wrote this. So that was what was available at the time. And so if you look at this, we're going to use Rory McIlroy as an example. He had to capture and enter the number of birdies he made on par 3 holes, total number of par 3 holes played, and the total number of par 3 strokes he made over the season. It captures the number of holes in one, but I said they're so rare, I'd just rather have each player have an equal low percentage chance of making it. And you'll see that later on what we did that with the hole in ones and the eagles on par 4s and the double eagles on par 5s. Also, the same principle is here on par 4s and par 5s, but we're just going to take a look at par 3s for our sample here. On par 4s, enter the number of birdies on par 4s, total number of holes, total number of par 4 strokes. Par 5s, you have the total number of birdies and eagles as a total. Like I said, they captured eagles, which it could have been a 2 on a par 4 or a hole in 1 on par 3. But I said those were so slim, I just assumed all eagles were made on par 5s. So if you have birdies and eagles minus number of eagles, which I assume again like they were all par 5s, left over you have the number of birdies for par 5s, total number of 5 holes, and total number of par 5 strokes. So at this point, you've got everything that is captured, say for less than par. You still have to capture the over par and the par information. And that's where you come out here. Well, we know what the number of par strokes are, the whole number of holes times the par of the hole. And we also know the total number of strokes, as you saw, the total number of strokes divided by the par. And so we have the number, in this case, of what's left over of the number of over par strokes. And so you have to divide that up between bogeys, double bogeys, triple bogeys. I assumed golfers don't make more than triple bogey on any given hole. Golfers are not really week in, week out shooting 8s on par 3s, unless maybe it's this week at the Players' Championship on number 17. So you have to divide the 32 up here. Did some research a while back and found out that about 85% of over par scoring is bogeys, 10% double bogeys, 5% triple bogeys, which gives you that 32, and divide that up by that. And what's left over is your par 5s or your pars strokes. Then you take all of these numbers and you build them into we'll call them a range of 1,000. And coming up with that, you find out that this number here for Rory on pars on a par 3 is 726, or you could think of it another way as 72.6% of the time he got a par on a par 3, birdie on a par 3, 16.4, etc. And so if you see all of these numbers right here, they add up to 1,000 because it's all based on 1,000. And then we just take these numbers nice and neat and put them in a little table that looks like this. And we do the same thing again for par 4s and par 5s. So we have to capture all that information for every golfer. And then that information is brought into the actual LVT roster sheet. And there we have that nice little chart of just that. That's all you really need. And so we use this information for every hole that he plays. Now I went through and already played around, and we'll see for Rory that he got, say, a 5 on the par 4 hole. The first hole's a bogey. So how did he get that information? How did he get that score? Well, it starts off with a random number generator for each hole. In this case, Rory's random number is 584.85. So you go over here, and where does that fall in that range of 1,000? Well, this is a par 4 hole. That's this numbers right here. We see 585 falls between these two numbers. If he had made 900, it would have fell in between par and bogey. But as it were, it fell in between birdie and par, which means that he made a par on the hole. Because, if it's going to be the upper end, he can't make more than triple bogey over here. So you use the upper range. If it had been down here, he'd have made birdie if it had been between 0 and 209. So his 585 means he made a par. But we saw a 5, a bogey. So how did he get from the 4 to the 5? That's where these add-ons come in. This is the information that you filled out or you selected at the beginning of the round, the conditions and everything. You set those percentages of difficulty, and a random number is brought up against those percentages. And if it meets that condition, then a stroke is added to that base score. So we saw his base score would have been a 4 on there, based upon where he fell into the range of numbers. And so we see that base score for him is a 4. And then since he met that conditions, it adds 1 to the score there, which makes it a 5. And that's how he got his 5 on the first hole. If we had been using easier conditions, it would have deducted a stroke from his base score. Now, real quick, back to the hole-in-ones and eagles, etc. On the par 3, just using what I found in research a while back, that's the percentage chance of a professional golfer getting a hole-in-one on any given hole. So we just populate that for all the golfers. Same thing over here, 0.05 chance of a 2 on a par 4, and then a 2 on a par 5, a very low percentage chance. It can happen, but it happens very rarely. What you will also see on here is that over here, what's captured at the end of every tournament, which partly takes a while, we capture statistics for the golfer, and we update the number of birdies and total holes and total strokes that he had for that tournament, and we add those up. And so then we update the numbers that are recalculated over here. We update these numbers based upon those new statistics. So the golfer's range here changes after every tournament and doesn't stay the same for every tournament throughout the career. It varies. So it's more real time and more realistic in that sense. So that's the secret sauce behind all of this. Okay, thank you.